Hello and welcome to Arnie's Short Stories. I hope you enjoy this story. I'm going to try and upload a new story each day. The Specter of the Solent. The Solent was restless that night. The tide whispered against the jagged shore, murmuring secrets to the wind as a storm gathered far out at sea. Holly Arnold stood at the edge of a crumbling pier, her coat pulled tight against the biting cold, eyes fixed on the horizon. She had heard the stories. Everyone on the Isle of Wight had. A ship that should not exist. A vessel wreathed in mist, adrift on blackened waves, appearing only when the wind howled and the sea raged. The Specter of the Solent, they called it. A legend. A tale to frighten children and warn sailors. But Holly had seen it. Not once. Twice. And she had come tonight to see it again. The sky churned, clouds roiling like a cauldron of ink. Lightning tore across the sky, illuminating the water in ghostly flashes. There, just beyond the reach of the shore, its outline shrouded in spectral fog, the ship loomed. Its tattered sails hung in eerie stillness, defying the storm's fury. The wooden hull, warped and splintered by centuries, gleamed with a wetness that should not have been, as if freshly broken upon unseen rocks. A bell tolled. A deep, hollow sound that sent an unnatural tremor through Holly's bones. The wind shifted, carrying with it the scent of damp rot, of something pulled from the depths, untouched by time. The sea whispered against the stones, its voice suddenly unfamiliar, as though something within the waves had begun to listen. The ship beckoned. She did not remember stepping onto the pier's final plank, nor did she recall when the rotting rope ladder had appeared, swaying invitingly over the restless water. Yet her hands found it, her feet climbing, splinters digging into her palms, the scent of mold thickening. A voice low and distant, barely more than a sigh, whispered her name. Holly's pulse hammered against her ribs, but she did not stop. As soon as her feet met the deck, the world shifted. The wind ceased. The ocean silenced. The island behind her vanished into an abyss of swirling mist. She was alone, and yet shadows moved beneath the torn sails. Figures, half seen in the gloom, flickered at the edges of her vision. A lantern swung on a rusted chain, casting sickly yellow light over the warped wood. The deck creaked beneath her weight, as though the ship itself groaned in recognition of her presence. She took a step. Another. The bell tolled once more. Then she saw them. Faces half dissolved by time. Eyes hollow, empty sockets that should not have seen her, yet they did. The ghosts of the Specter's crew. Some missing jaws, others with hands fused into claws of salt-encrusted bone. A captain with a gaping wound where his throat had been, his uniform still bearing the tatters of a time long past. Holly swallowed hard. "Who are you?" The captain's lips did not move, but his voice poured into her mind like seawater into a sinking hull. "You know us. You called us." A memory stirred. A forgotten story. A piece of history buried beneath the tides of time. Holly's grandmother had whispered it once, when she was just a child. The tale of a ship lost to the Solent in a night of treachery and blood. A ship that had been doomed by the betrayal of one of its own. Lightning cracked, illuminating the captain's face. A face that bore a striking resemblance to the portrait that had once hung in her grandmother's house. A family relic. The truth struck her like a wave. Her blood was tied to this curse. The deck lurched. The spirits pressed closer, the air thick with the taste of salt and sorrow. The ship wanted her. Needed her. Oh no. But the tide had turned. The mist curled around her ankles. The captain raised his skeletal hand, a command unspoken. The ship moaned, its decayed planks yearning for another soul. Holly turned, heart racing, searching for a way out. The ladder was gone. The island was gone. The sea stretched endlessly, the mist shifting in impossible shapes. The crew's whispering grew insistent, their hollow gazes locked onto her. Then a sound, one that did not belong. A voice, familiar and urgent, cut through the silence. She spun around. A shape emerged from the mist, a small boat bobbing wildly against the ship's hull. A figure stood within it, an old man, his face weathered by time and storm. A jump. The crew hiss, their forms flickering like candle flames in the wind. The captain's skeletal hand reached for her, fingers sculling like the tide itself. With a final, desperate breath, Holly leaped. Cold air swallowed her, and then she hit the water. The shock of it stole her breath, salt filling her lungs. Arms grasped her, pulling her up, dragging her into the bow. The old man rowed furiously, his face grim. Behind them, the specter of the Solent groaned. The mist thickened, the ships formed dissolving like foam upon the waves. The last thing Holly saw was the captain's hollow eyes, watching her, waiting. Then the ship was gone. The storm subsided. The sea lay still. Holly gasped, clinging to the boat's edge as the old man steered them back toward the faint outline of the Isle of Wight. Who are you?" He gave her a tired smile. As the first light of dawn touched the waves, Holly knew the spectre of the Solent would return. And so would she. Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoyed this story. Please don't forget to like and even better like and subscribe. Thank you very much, and I hope you have had or have a great day.